Hello and welcome to another part of our tutorial session, and my name is Owolabi, and in this part what we're going to do is we're going to place everything together and create a few components like the column, the floors, and a couple of other things we might have to create that would be needed. Okay, now and here I've actually moved to creating my windows and doors completely all over the scene, and I've done that according to the drawings we have here. So there, and so first things I'm going to show you is a simple pointer to know how to create your windows and make sure they don't form up like this where it doesn't cut through your wall. And that is such that if you are creating your using your doors or windows to create your openings and create your doors at the same time, what you should take note is let's go into our wireframe mode. What you should take note is come here and check your vertex and the point where the walls are created. You can see that small tiny cross, tick, actually it's a tick, a small tiny tick is where you have to like start your object creation from. Let's get rid of this and let me explain how that is. You can see that this doesn't really cut through, it doesn't cut through the wall. So while I was trying to create, so what I do is I'll turn on my snap mode, then put in a 3. Then when I come to create my doors, I'm using a door for example right here, so I'm turning off this. So when you try to create on this side, you know that it's on one side of the wall that we have that small tiny tick we saw from our sub-object level. So if we try to create from here, we don't get to have it cut through, and that's because it's not profiling from this reference, which is actually supposed to be where we get it from. So if we take a look at it and we now create from this side of the wall, you can see it actually cuts through, and it cuts through well. So that is just a small pointer I'd like to note us to, and would of course adjust our wall to the 2.1, which is 21 mm. Then one other thing is how to create our floors. The floor, basically we need a floor for this particular area. Since we're just working on exteriors for now, it's just okay to just create a floor, or well, not necessarily, but since we'll be having a few floors here, okay, then this is a balcony and we're going to have a balcony right here, so we can create our floor. But just in case you want to know how to create a floor, basically what we'd now do is we'll use spline, and what our floor will be a bounding of this particular wall, so we're going to be using splines. Come to splines and pick line. So we're going to start creating with our object snap turned on, and now this is a very good point where we can explain our snap types. So first let's choose our 3-point snap, which actually snaps to any point, particularly on all the axes. So let's start to create. We're trying to create a bounding. Well, let's we need to pick that particular point. Okay, and I'm using my eye to center my. Okay, good. And now you can see fine, it creates it round the top. Actually we wanted to create it to the base basically, but if it does it at the top it's not bad, but we're going to have a bit of a problem because it can snap to any point in our coordinates, so which is now snapping to a point below where the others are supposed to be. Now you can see we don't want this to happen. That's why this 2.5 is very good for that snapping. So we're going to get rid of this. I'm going to delete this, then I'm going to come back to my top view, then create my wall using the 2.5 snap, which actually only snaps to the ground, and it snaps to any point, but it places the object on the ground. So let's do that right now. To get this to snap here, then this to snap here, then we can accept and close our spline. Okay, now we have that, and it's no matter what, it will create it on the 0 plane of the z-axis. So this is what we want. Then actually we would add an extrude modifier just to give it a thickness, which is the 150. And one other thing we would do is, because I don't want this to be right on the same level with the wall, because it might come up with a problem while doing rendering and give splotches on this particular part. So what I'll do is I'll do a bit of shifting it inside a little bit on all sides, shifted it in and trying to make it not fall on the same level with the plane of the wall. So what I do is I come down to my sub-object level of the line I created. I think I want to isolate that, and we can turn this off and come here. So while we do that, and you see what happens. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to select the sub-object level, the spline, and pick that. Then I'm going to outline this, which does like an insert into it. It shifts it and creates another one inside. You can see what happens. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to use a -10. Okay, now that I've used a -10, and what it actually do is it shifts and creates another one inside. So what I'm doing is I'm going to delete the initial one and leave the current one, so that when it extrudes, it doesn't come up and show up on the surface of this wall here, which is actually very good. Okay, so, and I think I've made a little bit of a mistake here, and we can actually correct with a technique. I should put, because there is a balcony here, so this is supposed to come in, this balcony is supposed to come out. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to isolate that again, and I think I still need to keep my reference active. Okay, isolate that with the reference active, with the reference isolated as well. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a, let's go to our wireframe mode. I'm going to create a rectangle. I could as well use a line to create, but I want to create a rectangle to this and turn on my snap and put it there. And I think I wanted to convert that into a spline, convert into an editable spline, then select this and move it in a little. Then what I'm going to do now is I'm going to add this to this. So let's come here, we come to this level of the line of that spline we used for our floor, and I'm going to attach this to this. Once I attach this to this, it gives me a full mesh altogether. So one other thing I'll do is I think I'll move this in a little bit, just to be right in here, and with that merged, I'm going to now add this to this, because if we add our extrude right here, it's going to give a problem and you don't see anything good at all. You don't want it to be like this, but fine, this looks good, we can have it this way. But let me show you a bit of how to merge these two together without having to have them separately. So I'm going to come to our spline sub-object level. Then I come down here, boolean, and you can see it says boolean. It's going to boolean the two together, and I'll say union. So I'll now click my boolean and click this, so it attaches the two together. It attaches the two together. And if this, well, let's undo that. If this was something that goes all the way in, so we can now go again, do that again, and say boolean, and sorry, we pick that and we pick our boolean, and sorry, select this guy, pick our boolean and attach this. Then you see what happens, and it creates that and merges it together all together, and we have our floor with the balcony area equally. So now what we're going to do is bring this guy and dump it on top of this. So what we need to do is select all the walls. We select all the wall here, basically all the doors and the windows. How do you do that easily? I think we can turn this into a wireframe mode and do a drag over that and select everything there. Then I'd advise you group, and so you can actually move that, and let's say upper floor. So we have the upper floor, then we can actually move that together. Oh, I think we should add the floor to it, so I'm just going to select the floor and choose my attach and attach it to the group. Now it's together with the group. Okay, and one thing is now we turn on our snap, so we can actually pick this guy and dump it on top of this, and we'll pick reference point, which is going to be this point and this point. So let's take note of that. Let's move it a little bit closer so we can see where our points will come in. And we turn on our snap now. This time we use a 3-point snap, and once you see that crosshair, then you just place it right here and dump it over there, and voila, we have our walls placed on each other. So one other thing is we want to create a column here, the column which is right here, so we can measure this and say that yes, this is 980. So what we use to create this is a box. We come in and create a box from here, standard primitives box, snap on and create the box with the particular height. It says from the thing, it says the height is 981. Good. And now the major column, which is a round column here, it's a round member. So we could actually use two things. We could actually use a cylinder to create it. We turn it on off our snap. Could actually use a cylinder. We turn on our auto grid, which actually grids to a surface of a particular object. You can see what happens if we create it here. It does it this way. We don't want that. If we create it here, it picks the surface as a reference plane to place the base of the object. So we want to place it right here in the center of this. So this is there, but I want to use a spline to create this, which is a circle. So just show you a couple of things. A circle with a radius of 250. Good. Then we now apply our extrude modifier, which, let's see the height of our thing. That's 5,600. That's 5.65600, and I think we might want to increase the radius a little bit, and I think it's good. We have a good enough radius. So to create the elements here on our column, we would have to just use another method, which will apply our edit poly modifier. Then we'll select the edges, then we cut through them, which we use connect. that's selected, we now choose connect. So, and we want a couple, we want we would have said we want four, but we actually would go with 2 for now, and we have to pinch. We slide our pinch, and you see what happens, it puts it to the either ends, 2 to either ends. Then we accept that, then we select again, and we do the same thing, connect, and you know, we have two elements on either ends, so I think we'd accept that as that. So we have our 2 elements. Then what we do now is we now select, maybe we should isolate this so we can see that as a whole. Then we'd select the sub-object level, which is the polygon, and choose the areas we want. And what we do is, let's come to our perspective view, and what we do is we use an extrude, and let's do the extrude. You have to pick the extrude from this small window here. Then you now select, tell it to choose local normals, the other options, which is the polygon, depending on what you're trying to do, and this is the group, and of course this is what we want to achieve. So what we do is we tell it to create it to, like, say a 50. Let's take a look at the size here. This is 50, so we use a 50, and we accept that. Then you remove these ones, then the other one too, so we can extrude that as well to a 50 as well, so we get this element the way it is on our column. And if you take a left view look, and you can see that it looks exactly like what we have right there. Then we can exit our isolation, come back to our perspective view, and there we have our column well placed. Okay, and a couple of other things now we need to do. We need to create the roof, we need to create the fascias for the roof, facing boards, and of course we'll do some more balconies. We'll put a railing here, put another, okay, we'll have to put another floor here. Using that method, we could as well just bring this in. Let me just show you that, and we open our group. We can open the group, then isolate this guy, and we want this to come all the way to follow up, because we don't want this space, because that area is a balcony as well. So what we do is I'll come here and get rid of this and get rid of this, so it's a full flowing thing, and you can see, and we can close our group back with that selected. Then we have our balcony there and our balcony here. So what we're going to do now is create a railing, and railings too are AEC objects, so and it can be done from choosing, coming to us create geometry, and we come to AEC, which we saw initially when we were trying to create our walls. So right now we could as well just pick our railing and create, but before we create our railing, we'll have to set a railing path where we want it to be created, a railing path. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to draw a spline down across this area to create our railing path. I could just do line and turn on my auto grid, bring this guy, holding my shift to constrain to a particular axis, and equally still holding my shift to constrain to a particular axis, so that we don't get to, if we don't hold your shift, it goes in various directions, but I hold my shift to constrain to a particular axis. So with that created, I can now pick my, say, railing. Then I'll just, to create that, I'll just say pick railing path, then I'll just pick a spline, and it doesn't look good now. So what I'll do is I'll tell it to respect corners, then it respects the corners, and fine, we have our railing there. Then the same way you create the railing right here, which I'll do later and not right here. So create a railing. Then for our railing, you exit the command with right click. For our railing, we can now do a couple of parameter setting here. Segment. If it's a lot of curve, we can increase our segment, but right now it's okay for just one segment. Then we can increase we can change the type. We can have a round top rail. I want the square one. We can have the lower rails. We can have a round one. You can actually play with all these parameters and see what they do. Then you can actually choose the lower rail spacing and the posts. Okay, lower rail spacing, we have, if you click that, if you click this lower rail spacing, what it actually does is it tells you now to space. Let's take a look at what happens when we do this. It actually increases the number of rail and space, distributes them evenly, and you can as well just adjust your parameters with spacing, what particular spacing you want, how you want it distributed, and all that. So I think I'm good with 3, and I'll click close. And you can as well just have the same thing for your posts, which you can tell the number of posts. Right now it's 2, and you can actually increase it to 4, 3, and more. And I think I'm good with 2. Then fencing as well, you can actually increase that, and just play with these parameters and see what they come up with, and every other thing here, and see what they come up with. I think I'm good with this. So right now, I think I'm going to end this tutorial here for now, and we'll jump off to another one. In the next part, we're going to show you how to create the roof, the fascia boards, and the ceiling area with the roof, basically. I hope this is quite clear enough, and I hope you enjoyed it. Thank you, and to see you in the next one or two as well.